All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we're talking about the top 10 mistakes leaders make. Mistake number three. Welcome to our broadcast. Um, I'd love to know where you're watching from. So please, I'm going to allow a couple minutes for you to put your name in the comments, whether you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or on YouTube. Please put your name in the comments as you hop on. I'm going to give a couple minutes for that. So today we're continuing in our series, Top 10 Mistakes Leaders Make. We're going to talk about mistake number three today. So if you're coming on, please put your name in the comments. I'll give it a little bit more time. Hey, Natasha, I hope I'm doing that right. Natasha, if I'm pronouncing that right, just say yes. Is it Natasha or Natasia? I'm not sure. Hi, Mohammed. Thanks for tuning in. Zarina, thanks for tuning in and supporting our show. I'm hoping that you guys will have some good comments for me today. As you're watching, want to get your feedback. Patrice, thanks for hopping in. Debbie, Lara, Brian, Jasmine, Stefan, Rosie, Maestro, Shannon, Angela. Good to see you guys coming on here. Today we're continuing our series, Top 10 Mistakes Leaders Make. We're going to talk about mistake number three, the absence of affirmation. So I know some of you guys have some great stories. So I'm going to be looking in the comments to see what you guys are saying. Emily, Chicago, great. Emily, good to have you here. Florence from San Diego, Clifton, nice to have you here. Booley, Hoku from Maui. Hi, Hoku. I hope it's nice weather there. I'm expecting a tornado here, they said, or on a tornado watch here in North Carolina, where I'm at, until 1:45 p.m. Eastern. So I have another 10 minutes in the tornado window. So, but I'm believing, I'm trusting God that we're going to be good. Raquel, Raquel, you're from North Carolina too. So I'm in Charlotte, and we just got a tornado warning for the next 20 minutes, but hopefully it's going to be okay. Today we're talking about mistake number three of the top 10 mistakes leaders make, which is the absence of affirmation. So, all right, so we're going to get started in about one more minute. I'll allow for a few more people to hop on, and we're going to get started. Okay, all right, so we have already discussed mistakes number one and two, which number one was a top-down attitude. We discussed that a couple of weeks ago, where leaders make the mistake in believing that the top-down attitude works, which we know it does not work, right? It does not work, and especially does not work for today's workforce. And then last week, we spoke about putting paperwork before people work. And so if you've missed those, you can look in the feed below, or we have them on YouTube. So if you've missed show number one, which is the top-down attitude, and show number two, which is putting paperwork before people work, you can see them in the feed here, or you can go on our YouTube channel and you can see it. So today we're going to talk about, and I'm hoping my battery does work, we're going to talk about today the absence of affirmation. All right, so I know some of you guys here on the chat, right, on the show today, I know some of you guys have experienced working for an employer, a manager, or a leader, or whatever, who is not an affirming leader. And on these broadcasts, I know we also have leaders and managers. So I want the leaders and managers on this broadcast to really tune in, really, and listen with an open mind, right? Because we're going to try to discuss some tips and strategies as to how you can affirm your people in an authentic way. So many people, right, they don't have an affirming attitude. And my conclusion for that is that they themselves were never affirmed, so they don't know how to give that back to others. But that cannot be an excuse any longer, right? You have to figure out how to get past your personality. Some people are just not people who give compliments. They just don't. It's not in their personality. But as a manager and as a leader, you are responsible for your people. And you have to cut through even your own scripts, right? Of not giving credit, not giving praise. You have to cut through that so that you can really help to build satisfaction among your team. Your team needs to have their emotional batteries charged often. Okay. Life is hard, my friends, right? Life is hard. And your team comes to work with their entire selves, right? That means that they're coming to your office with their personal problems. They're coming to your office with their illnesses that they may not have disclosed. And they're doing the best that they can. And they need to have that battery charged and recharged often, right? And so your job as a manager and as a leader is to identify ways to affirm your team. And there's so many different things that you can do. It's not that hard. Giving a genuine compliment on a note card is just, it goes a long way. And there has been research, right, and studies that have shown that there are people who actually appreciate affirmations and credit more than they appreciate a raise, especially if the raise is only like a 1% raise. They'd rather be affirmed and be told that they're doing a great job than even a small raise. And so we're missing an opportunity here to keep our people happy and to keep our people motivated and inspired with a simple act. You could have, I don't have any with me here now, but you could have, as a manager, as a leader, you could have cards in your desk, right? Cards on your desk, in your desk drawer, just blank cards. And if you catch someone doing good, just write "good job," put it on their desk. That can totally change someone's day. I had a series once when I ran my nonprofit. It was called "Caught Doing Something Good." And it was me empowering my team to proactively and intentionally catch someone on the team doing something good and to bring it to the attention of management. Now, the rewards were both. The person who actually caught you doing good, they were somehow rewarded. And so was the person who actually was the one that was doing good. So this way you get everyone involved, right? So you have to change your culture. I don't know what culture you have right now, but this begins with culture, corporate culture. Is your culture in your company an affirming culture? And if not, how can you change that? And it's really simple. It's just simple little tips I'm going to share with you today that I have used. For example, some leaders, they believe, and they genuinely believe that your paycheck is your reward. That is coming from they call a fixed mindset or a scarcity mindset. Remember, the rewards doesn't have to be monetary. We talked about that. The monetary rewards are actually, in some cases, less important than the affirmation that you give to your people. And so there's simple things that you can employ in your organization. For example, if you're in a large company with layers, right? What I did when I ran my law firm with my husband, I instituted a program for the managers where their reviews and their raises were based upon who they developed on their team, who they invested in. It wasn't just about their performance, but it was who they were bringing up, who was in their line of succession. So when review time came, if they couldn't identify a genuine, legitimate, person who they had been developing in the line of succession, then that affected their money. And so that was our corporate culture, because our corporate culture was all about, appreciating your people, team building, harmony, team growth, right? Because when the team is happy, remember, I keep saying this every week, your team is your most important asset. You can have a building, you could own the most beautiful building, but if your team decides to get up and walk away one day, just walk out, you have no business. You have no organization. And those of you in management and in leadership know the more turnover you have is the more money you're expending unnecessarily in training and development. So you might as well work with who you have and treat who you have properly. I'd love to. Tori says a simple thank you will go a long way with your team. It does every time, Tori. It does every single time. And that is why I'm speaking to the leaders and the managers on the call today. I'm speaking to you especially because I don't know what your current company culture is, but if it's not if you think affirmation is just annoying or affirmation doesn't seem genuine to you or doesn't feel natural to you, you want to change that company culture because today's workforce, we are going through so much more, and a simple thank you, a simple public mention in a staff meeting that, hey, kudos to Jane or kudos to Zarina for doing a great job last month with this particular thing. When you give compliments, by the way, and when you affirm your people, by the way, it has to be genuine and authentic. Don't just say good job, because then if you keep saying good job and there's no good job being done, the other team members will become, disillusioned, and your compliments won't have that much value. But when you can pointedly say, good job for getting that deadline before the deadline date, right? Good job for taking on this really crazy project and not just doing it well, but doing it beyond expectations. That's what people appreciate because they know you are legit, right? I know your encouragement keeps your people going, right? And especially for those companies, you know who you are. If you're not paying top dollar to your people, right, then encouragement keeps them going. And you have to find other ways, right? I have to find other ways to make them feel appreciated. Pamela says, yes, no, check the box. Thank you. Yes, your employees will know. That's right, Pamela. And I know Pamela led a large team. You can't just say, all right, I'm going to be a thank you kind of boss. Let me check this box, as she said. You have to be specific as to what you are thanking for, right? What was the expectation and what was the result? And for those companies who are not paying top dollars, especially for those companies who are in the nonprofit world, you need to be creative. So I ran both a for-profit and a nonprofit organization. So my nonprofit, I had great talent, but they weren't paid very well because in the nonprofit world, a lot of times you're on a grant and it's very specific and it's not a lot of money. So I had to become super creative to allow my employees to feel like they're super special. And they were, because I know that what I was paying them, they could get double in the private sector, right? They were dedicated workers in the nonprofit sector, but they could have gotten much more money in the private sector. So you have to be proactive and think of creative ways, right, to show your people that they care. I typically have, just staff appreciation day, simple things too, like we talk about bringing in breakfast on a Friday for those, even if you're a small company, so your team feel that goodwill. Like I said, mentioned doing something good. Encourage your team members to appreciate and look for the good in each other. That creates a community of giving and compassion and looking for good. Many people, right, look for bad. We get what we're looking for. But when we look for good, we're going to see good, right? And people, if they know that you're looking for good, they're going to want to be good, right? All right, so let me just put some more comments up here. Let's see. Stefan says, people read your life more than even hearing your words. Stefan, explain that some more. They read your life more than hearing your words. Explain that some more, Stefan. Let's see. Someone else here said, Horatio said, people will follow your dream and goals if they are part of it. Absolutely. Absolutely, Horatio, right? If they know they were part of it. If you as the company owner, the founder, the leader, you have a vision. That's why you started your organization. And you want people to buy into it, right? But they're not going to buy into any kind of dictatorship. right? They're going to buy into community, into shared vision, into shared appreciation. Now, do not, and I repeat this, do not affirm a bad employee. I've seen this happen, right? A checked out leader, a checked out leader, a checked out manager who may have a friend or a colleague or a relative working for them may make the mistake of affirming and complimenting a bad employee. This will discredit and disqualify you and your credibility as a leader. Okay. So you don't want to affirm a bad employee. You don't want to say good job to everyone on the team, unless it was a real team effort. But there are always shining stars, right, on your team. And those shining stars, they're shining stars for a reason, because they have gone above and beyond expectations, and they need to be called out. Some examples that I've seen, right? And I know I have a post on the Purpose Centered Leadership page that's asking you guys for examples and ideas of how to show appreciation. But one example I saw recently was that an employee, right? And for those of you, again, who are managers, leaders, an employee was away on sick leave for a while. This was a good employee, right? You know, we all know life happens, right? You could go out on maternity leave, you could go out on just a genuine sick leave. And when the employee came back to work, the manager says, you know, he wrote a card and said, look, you were really missed. Because you know what? That employee was really missed. So why keep that information to yourself, right? This is selfish thinking. Are you not thinking? You're not thinking about your people. You have to become people oriented. And that's the reason why that servant leader model is so popular. When the employee returned to work, it takes nothing out of you, managers and leaders, to write a simple card. You were truly missed. If they were truly missed. Now, if it's a bad employee who came back to work, you're not going to say that. But if you had a good star employee who was away and came back, you were truly missed. Do you know what that would do to that employee's psyche, their performance level? I mean, they would probably make up for the time that they were gone, because they feel so appreciated. Appreciation is a valuable currency in your organization. Pamela says you will continue to get the behavior you rewarded. That's right. You know, another saying that I was told years ago by a mentor, Pamela, is that people will rise to the level of expectation that you set for them, right? So if you expect top performance in your organization, you know, from your key people, if you expect top performance, they're going to rise to that level of expectation. Now, if you're constantly banging and bashing and, you know, and putting down your people, you're going to constantly get that same behavior. And so this is why it all falls on leadership, right? It all falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership, as Maxwell says, right? Always remember that employees take their whole selves to work. I can't say this enough. We take our whole selves to work. We spend more time at work, you know, more of our waking hours at work than we do with our own family. So when we come to work, we're coming with our baggage, but we know that the work is important to keep our family going. And so if we're doing the best that we can and you recognize that, then please affirm it. Affirm it. An easy thing for you managers and leaders to do as well is just a shout out. You know, we tend to have a lot of meetings in companies, way too many meetings, death by meeting. We all hear about death by meetings, right? So we tend to have so many meetings. Well, how about, you know, just allocating 30 seconds in a meeting to shout out a star performer? Do you know that your people will live for that 30 seconds? They will come to the meeting with more expectation, more excitement, more motivation, because they know that someone's going to be shouted out at that meeting and they want it to be them. And if it wasn't them this time, they're going to do their darndest to make it themselves the next time. These are simple, simple strategies that cost you nothing to do, but has a huge return on the other end. We all have heard that, the saying, people leave bad managers, right? They don't leave bad companies. They need bad managers. They leave bad managers. And so we spend so much time in the recruiting process when we need to spend more time in the affirmation process, the people development process, right? If you have a good person, right? When I say a good, a real loyal employee, right? And they may not even be maybe they're not as skilled in an area. Maybe they're not as skilled on Excel as you'd want them to be, or as skilled on PowerPoint as you'd want them to be. But they're truly, a loyal, good soul. They'll, first to arrive, last to leave. Then that is your job as a manager, as a leader, to develop that person. I just want you guys to know too that affirming an employee is not just compliments, it's also investing in their personal development, investing in their growth within your company. Because what you're saying to that employee is this: I value you, right? We value you as an organization. We value you and we want to see you do well. So we are going to send you to this training or to that training, or pay for you to do this, or pay for you to finish your college, or pay for you to start college. That is hugely affirming. And so it's so many different things that you can do. So many things that you can do to keep your employees happy. There are people who may be watching this and may be thinking, good Lord, is it all about the employees? It kind of is. It kind of is, the school of thought where employees have to do what you want, or, they're getting a paycheck, that's the reward. That school of thought went away back in the maybe 80s, maybe 80s, right? So it is all about the employees. Because, and I'll say it again, if they all decide to get up and walk out one day, you have no business. So you have to be conscientious as a manager, as a leader. And leaders, if you are the leader, the COO, CEO, some C-suite person of a large organization, and there's turnaround of staffing beneath you, in your company. Well, that's happening at the manager level. But guess what? That's your issue. That is your responsibility to figure out what is happening at the manager level. When I realized I was having some, disquieted employees, right? I went straight to the manager level to find out what was going on. And some of you guys will identify with this. There are some managers, as we all know, who feels threatened by smart employees, right? We've all, a lot of us have been through that, right? And it's unfortunate where we may have insecure managers and there's a shining star or a rising star on the team, and that manager feels threatened, which means there'll be no affirmation for that employee, no compliments, and there might even be some sabotage, right? It is the leader's job above to keep an eye on that manager level. This is why when I felt that was happening in my organization, I instituted two things: a 360 review of the managers, which meant that the managers were being reviewed not just by the leader, who they report to, they were being reviewed also by the people who reported them. That really changed the game in my organization, because now your salary, your future is also dependent upon what your team members are saying. So if you're not affirming your team, if you're not developing your team, it's going to directly affect you. And then I added the extra layer of saying, that me as the owner, as the leader, as a chief operating officer, when you come to sit in front of me with your review, I want to know, who have you developed? on your team for me to, give you a raise, for me to, promote you any further, because it's all about people development. We have to have a pipeline of happy employees, right? If not, we don't have a bench, right? If somebody gets sick or have to leave, there's no bench, because everyone was being self-absorbed, self-absorbed. So it goes back to, what is the culture of your organization? Okay. And this is what I love to teach. When I consult with organizations, I start with the CEO or the top person, the founder, and I try to figure out what is the culture of the organization. And then I, of course, I interview the staff, right? To see if what the CEO or the founder is stating, if that's actually coming across to the people. And a lot of times there's a disconnect, right? But these are simple tips, simple strategies that can help you cut down on the turnover of your staff. Very simple. So I'm looking at some of these comments now. So Emily says, these are great tips for both professional and personal relationships. Words of affirmation are so important in building others up. You shouldn't stop when you leave the office. True leaders will encourage others in all areas of their life. Emily, let me tell you, I read something. It might have been yesterday, right? It was a joke. But it was a funny joke. But here's what the joke said. So you were married to someone 25 years ago, and on your wedding day, your husband said to you, or your wife said to you, "I love you." And so 20 years later, your wife is leaving you, or your husband's leaving you, and she or he said, "Well, you haven't been telling me that you love me." And he responds, "I told you that 25 years ago. That was enough. And if I'm not loving you anymore, I'll tell you." This is the method that some company uses, right? They tell you once that you're doing a great job. Maybe the first month you started, but now you've been there for 4, 5, 6 years, and you've never heard the word good job anymore. And you're wondering, am I being appreciated? Right? Am I being valued? And some other company over there says to you, "Hey, come over here. We value our employees. Here's what we do. We go away on retreats. We go away on trips. We have, Employee of the Month awards. We do doing something good awards. We do an employee newsletter where we shout out the star employee of the week. Here is our wall of fame." You are going to lose that employee just from lack of affirmation. It happens all the time. So I'd love to see if in the comments, if there's any manager in the comments right now, or any leader that believe that they are doing a great job with affirming their team. And if you're not doing a great job, I want you to say, "I'm learning and I could do better." I'd love to hear your comments, because listen, I learned by trial and error. I learned along my journey for the last, I don't know, I keep dating myself, but the last 30 years, I learned from mistakes, right? So, and as I learned, I instituted, systems to keep me and to keep my team focused on the big picture, focus on what's important, which was team satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and employee buy-in. I remember, and twice, both in my nonprofit and in my corporate job, I could not give raises. As a matter of fact, in my nonprofit, I was actually cutting salary. I had to cut back on some salaries for everyone, like reduce their pay, and I was reducing their hours as well. I offered a reduction of their hours to reduce their pay, because I just didn't have a grant. I hadn't gotten a grant that could cover it, right? And I remember every single employee saying, "No, do not reduce my hours. We want to put on the books that we are paid this amount, and we're going to volunteer our time." I remember it to this day. "And we're going to volunteer our time for our additional hours." So if I was paying them 40, I couldn't afford to pay them a 40-hour work week anymore. So I was paying them 20. And they were still coming to work 40 hours and booking the remaining 20 hours as volunteer time. The reason why I had made such a great deposit in my team when I had it, appreciation. I have, I did a lot of the dinners at my home. You know, I mean, I'm one who compliments a lot my team, right? So they knew where my heart was at. They knew where my commitment was at. So when the going got tough, they were there with me in the trenches. The same thing happened on my corporate side in my firm. We had lost a major account, and people wanted to hold on because they knew the culture that we had created was a culture where it was putting people first. And so, friends, I'm just saying, I'm telling you what I know, what I've experienced, and I'm seeing so many people lose good people with from not doing, neglecting a very simple act of just appreciating your people. All right, so let me see. There's any comments here. Lydia says, we can always do better. The busier we become, the more we should be triggered to demonstrate appreciation and affirmation. Can never be enough, but must be very sincere. Lydia, I'm so appreciative of you being honest, because anyone who rests on their laurels and say, we're doing great, we're doing, we're the best, you're not growing, okay? Because what worked last year may not be enough for this year. For example, prior to February of last year, we did not have COVID, right? We didn't have this crazy stuff where we had to go home and work remote and had to be more tolerant of kids being on your Zoom calls and kids being in the background making us. We as employers had to expand our way of thinking. We had to expand our tolerance. Employers who couldn't stand giving time off and day off to moms who had to go take care of their kids' needs had to learn now how to work with moms with their kids at home, because the entire world had to learn that. And so we're constantly, as employers, as leaders, as managers, have to evolve. So I appreciate Lydia's statement that we can always do better. Okay, we can always do better. Let's see. Tori says, I believe I'm doing a great job with affirmation with my team. However, always can do more. Thank you, Tori. Definitely can always do more. I learned, so I don't have a big team now since I've left the corporate world, since I've left the nonprofit world a couple of years ago, and working pretty much with a smaller team as a consultant and as a coach. But even with my small team, I make sure that I'm affirming my small team and making sure that your team is doing work that they like to do. That's another thing too, friends, managers, leaders. You may have a good employee that's ill-suited for a particular role. Part of your affirmation is having that conversation and saying, hey, I know you are smart, but you're not playing an A game in this role. Is there something else that you believe that you could do better? Is there another role in this organization, even on this small team, that you feel that you're better suited to do? That's affirming. You know what that's affirming? That is affirming your belief in that person. That's what that's affirming, right? It's not just one thing. It's not just the cards. That's affirming your belief in that team member, right? Because not everybody is suited for the job that they're doing. But you can take, 20 minutes and just talk to that person and figure out what assignment would best fit their skill sets, right? And like I mentioned before, if they're lacking a skill set that they want to have developed, that is your opportunity to invest in that employee. Jillian said, I'm not a manager, but took management courses on, how I would love to work and be trained by someone like you. This is what I taught, but unfortunately, it's very rarely practiced. Very true, Jillian. And I appreciate your kind words, Jillian. And this is the reason why, Jillian, I took, I've been in the corporate and the nonprofit world, the corporate world for 30 years. 35 years, and the nonprofit world for 19 years. And as I got into my second season of life, I just really wanted to devote and dedicate my time to leadership development, management development, turning managers into leaders, and just coaching executives, because many times, unfortunately, our wonderful executives need the training. They need their mind shifted. It's not so much about what's happening at the bottom of the organization, it's really what's happening at the top, because culture begins at the top. And honestly, it's the culture that drives the organization, the culture, the mission, the vision, the values of the leader and the leaders that's driving the organization. So thank you for your kind words, Jillian. Raquel says, so true. Businesses fall, or I mentioned fail to keep the continuous improvements going for the organization. And when new talent comes in ready to work and focus on the mission, others begin to feel threatened because they become complacent. It's true, they became complacent. This is why, again, I go back to culture. Culture. Managers on the line right now, and leaders on the line right now. If I were to come into your organization, right, the first thing I'm going to ask is like, what is the overall mission of the organization? What is the overall mission and vision and values? And then I would ask your team members or your manager level, is what you're doing feeding into this mission? Do you even believe in the mission of your organization? Do you even believe in the vision? Is what you're doing feeding into that overall mission and vision of your organization? And a lot of time there's a big disconnect. It's a big disconnect. Lack of consistency. I see that in a lot of organizations. They start out great and then they get bigger and then they lose that consistency. They lose the quality of work. This is why, again, people don't want to spend on consultants. They don't want to spend on coaches. But when I was a young organization, when my husband and I ran our law firm together, we got to a place 3 years in where we knew we had to grow, but there was something going on. We didn't know what it was. We brought in a consultant, and part of the problem was us. I know I was told that, I had to be a better delegator, and I had to learn some stuff, right? I didn't see it. I'm a co-founder, and I'm worried about the money's coming in and the clients coming in, and as a leader and the founder and the guy up here in the C-suite, you take your eye off really some critical points because you're into survival mode. Meanwhile, you're trying to fix it up here at the top with the money and the clients, but at the bottom, you're losing people. The back door is open and people are going through, and you're having a revolving door. So it is not easy. It is not easy, my friends. And that's why sometimes you need to bring in consultants and help to help you just stop, right? And just reprioritize, revisit your mission, bring your people in, get some more buy-in, get them to renew their commitment to the organization. It's very, very important. I think Kiana says a great book to read is The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace, Empowering Organizations by Encouraging People. It's one of my many resources I leverage to connect with my team members. And Kiana, good for you, Kiana, for investing in your own development. Okay? Good for you for taking that step to learning what's going to help your team. You guys have been really great today. I'll take a couple more comments, and then I will continue to answer comments after we hang up here live. But you guys have been amazing today. Shiva says, leadership, it's all about taking care of each other. Leaders are responsible to build a culture that inspires everyone to take care of the person next to him. Everyone can be a leader as long as the environment in which we are inspires us to be our best. Jivas, leaders miss that great point, right? As a leader, you don't have to have all the weight on your shoulders, right? To create, to make your company run. What you have to do is the 5% that you need to do. Establish the culture, establish the core values, the mission, and the vision, right? That's what you do. Then train, multiply your leadership, multiply your influence, let go, find good people, develop good people, right? Build a culture, as Jiva says. Multiply yourself. And when you multiply yourself, you're multiplying your impact in the organization. I think I may have had one more point that I wanted to share. Let me see. What I think, if a leader is okay, and I did make this point earlier, but I did say if a leader is uncomfortable with affirmation, in giving affirmation, it may be a sign that they have never been affirmed themselves, right? And it may be a trigger for you, right? You've never been affirmed. I was never praised. That may be your response. I was never praised for the work I did. I don't even know how to praise somebody else. And this is why, like the person before, Kiana, go figure out, go get a book, go get a coach, go to a workshop or seminar and learn how you can become a better manager, a better leader, right? Because you may not have had a good manager, but it doesn't mean that you continue that trend, right? You can say, I'm going to choose to be different. What I didn't get, I'm going to give. Okay. So thank you guys so much. You guys were amazing, 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 amazing. And I'm going to read your comments. I know my assistant was in the feed answering, but I'm going to go back myself and answer as well. You guys were amazing. I am here every Monday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going through the top 10 mistakes leaders make. And the one for next week, some of you might identify, it's going to be called No Room for Mavericks, right? So there's mavericks in every organization, people who think outside the box. And a lot of leaders are threatened by those mavericks, but I want to change that perception. Okay. So thank you guys. And again, if you are in leadership or management and you would like to schedule a discovery call with me, it's a free 30-minute call. I'm going to put my link in the calendar, and feel free. It's 30 minutes. You can pick my brain. And if you would like me to work with you or work with your organization, with your team, then we can discuss it there. But if for anything else, you have 30 minutes to pick my brains and ask me any questions you want on leadership, management, team, culture, mission, vision is what I do all day long. So thank you so much. And we'll see you guys back here next week live. Take care and God bless.